bank. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy you're here as well. And like Sarah said, we're going to cover senior citizen scams. Okay. First of all, I'd just like to quickly go through what we're going to talk about. We're going to look at exactly why we're here and what we intend to accomplish today. And before we do that, I want to agree on one common theme. Okay. But before we go any further, before we talk about scams, before we talk about anything, I'd like to just do a quick exercise on perspective. Okay? So what I need you to do is just partner up, all right? So you don't need to do anything with your partner yet, but what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to immediately turn to your partner and answer it out loud. Okay? So no hesitation. I'm going to ask the question. I need you to immediately turn. Fair enough? Okay. Ready? What color is a yield sign? Yellow. Okay, raise your hand if you said yellow. Okay, let's just look at something real quick.
Not anymore.
You're correct. What color is a yield sign actually?
Red.
Okay, it's red. So if you said yellow, you're correct in 1971. All right? So this is a perspective thing. As humans, we tend to think about things a certain way, okay? A yield sign is yellow. Well, a yield sign is not yellow, it's red. But our minds tell us it's yellow, okay? So I do that exercise for one reason. You're thinking, what the heck does that have to do with senior scams? Well, people involved in these scams have a certain way of thinking about them, and they think about it like this. If this happens to me, I'm not telling anybody. This is my deal, all right? I don't have any help, I don't need any help, I don't want any help. That's not the truth, okay? The yield sign is red. All right, the yield sign is red. So what I'm trying to get across today is one common theme, which is this. You're not in it alone when you have this stuff happen to you, okay? There are folks out there that will help you with this. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'll go briefly into who I am, and Jeff isn't here, but we'll talk just one quick slide on that and why I'm qualified to speak to these things. And then we'll cover the actual scams. So we're going to cover roughly 15 different scams that you may encounter or the folks that you deal with may encounter. And we'll talk about ways to protect yourself, and then if you do become a victim, what can you do, okay? So what can happen to you, and what can you do if it does, all right? Does that make sense? All right, fair enough. Okay, so here's this agreement I was asking about. So I think we can all agree that we don't want to give the bad guys our money. Fair enough? I mean, we can agree on that, right? Pretty easy. If we can't agree on that, there's no need to go forward from here. But I think I don't want to give the bad guys my money, and I don't want you guys to either. So we can agree on that. But why are we talking about senior scams? Well, people who grew up in the 30s, 40s, and 50s grew up in an environment where you were taught to trust people. All right? You were taught to be polite. You were taught to trust people. Here's the problem with that. The bad guys know that. All right? So they're going to prey upon that. They know you're nice people. All right? And they're going to use that to their advantage, okay? So if we look at the second and third bullet there, folks 65 and above account for roughly 15% of the population, okay? Folks 60 and above comprise more than 30% of fraud attempts, all right? So what's that tell us? That tells us that the bad guys are targeting that group of people, okay? So if you're 60 and above, you're more likely to be targeted by these scams we're going to talk about a few slides down. Does that make sense to everybody? All right? You're the target. And you're the target because you're nice. All right? And they're preying upon that. They know that you're polite. They know you were raised to trust people and to be nice to people. And that's what the bad guys prey on for most of these scams and schemes. Second big area on this slide, and what I talked about earlier, typically when folks think of being scammed, they don't want anybody to know. But we need to change that, okay? We need to change that perception. We need to change that tunnel vision, all right? We need you guys to know that we're in this together, all right? And I'll tell you why. Because the bad guys are in it together. They work together. They're efficient, all right? But here's the problem. The good guys aren't. When I say good guys, who are the good guys? You are, right? The customer. The person being scammed is a good guy. Who are some other good guys? How about the police? They're good guys. They want to help you. How about us, the bank? We're here to help you. Let me ask you this. Where are the bad guys? Who knows? They could be in a basement in Romania, okay? But guess where the good guys are? We're here. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be in this building tomorrow. We're going to be in this building the next day. We're not going anywhere. Use us, okay? We're here to help you. in these scams. And we'll talk about that a little more later. But it's very important for folks involved in these scams to understand there is help. All right? And if the bad guys are organizing together, we need to be as well. And we can help you. All right? But we can't help you if we don't know it's happening. All right? So it's very important that that typical thought of, I want to keep this stuff to myself, goes away. Let people help you. Because then what happens is, when you tell us, it's probably happening to someone else too. And it's probably happening to someone else and someone else. And typically there's dozens. All right? So then we become much better at catching the bad guys when you tell us something's going on. Does that make sense? All right. All right, just real quick on my background. I grew up in Vinton, Iowa. I'm married with 2 daughters. My wife works in Corville with the Marine recruiting station. I've got a daughter at Iowa, and my youngest is 14, which is why I have all this gray hair. But we won't go into that. I went into the Air Force straight out of high school, and while I was in the Air Force, I learned a lot about physical security and information security and things that directly relate to these type of scams and what the bad guys are up to. So that's why I'm kind of qualified to do this stuff. I joined the bank in 2001, and in that time, I've still continued to work in physical security, information security, and then business continuity, third-party vendor management. You can see this is the building we're in right now in 2008. So it was about 1.5 feet underwater. So those are the kind of things I deal with on a day-to-day basis, and some of that makes me qualified to talk about our topic today. Jeff Linscheid's not going to be here today, so we're not going to talk about him. All right, last thing. Before we get into the actual slides where we talk about this different types of scams, I'm going to put this out here, okay? Older Americans are just less likely to report something happening to them. Okay, they just are. They don't often know who to tell, okay? They don't often even know what's happening to them, all right? So what we're trying to get across today is just some information that will let them know, hey, if this is happening, you need to let someone know, and someone is there to help you, okay? Let us know. Let the police know. Make sense to everybody? It's just the way it is. I mean, I wish it wasn't, but that's just, unfortunately, the nature of the beast in this case. All right, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to look at 14 different scams. Some of these we'll cover in a little more detail than others. But we're going to go through these kind of quickly. And like Sarah said, if you have any questions on these, just hold them till the end, and we can have an open discussion about any of the scams you guys may be seeing or any of the things we may be seeing, and just have an open discussion in that regard. All right, phishing identity theft. It's a lot of information on that slide. What it comes down to is the bad guys want your information. And they want it for a lot of different purposes. Your date of birth, your mother's maiden name, your social, your driver's license, all that stuff is really valuable to the bad guys. And they sell it online. Okay? They sell it in a place called the deep web, and we can't get out there, but it'd just be like you going out to Amazon.com, the bad guys go out to whatever and get a hold of this information. So they phish elderly folks to try to get that information so they can either apply for credit as them, or try to do a wire as them, or just to flat out sell that stuff because it's worth money. So if I have a group of that information on just Sarah, it's worth $5 to me if I'm a bad guy. So if I've got 100,000, it adds up quick, okay? So phishing and identity theft comes down to the bad guys wanting your information for various reasons, either to sell it or to act like they're you typically, okay? So how do they get a hold of that information? Well, here's a good example. I don't know if you can see that the letters are kind of small, but this email looks like it's coming from the IRS. It looks official to me, right? Looks like a good email. It's not, okay? There's a couple clues here. One, if you look at the address of where it's coming from, it says antifraud@irs.com. What address do you think an IRS web email would have? .gov. Sign number 1, okay? And then the biggest one in here is that somewhere in here, you're going to click a link, and they're going to ask you for your information. All right? And typically, they're not going to do that. All right? They're going to have your information already. Okay? So when we talk about phishing and identity theft, the bad guys are either going to call you, which we'll talk about later, or you're going to get a weird email that looks like it's real. It's called a phishing email. Does that make sense? And these are all designed to get that information out of you so they can sell it, or they can use it to apply for credit or other things of that nature. Make sense? Okay. All right, so let's stay on the IRS subject real quick here. How many have been a victim of someone applying for a tax return as you or know someone that has? Pretty prevalent topic these days, right? So this is a lot of information from the IRS, but what I'll tell you is if they've fished you for information, it can also be so they can apply for your tax return. Okay, that's another reason they want your data. Now, what can you do? You can go out to irs.gov and open an account as yourself. So then what you do is you could put a password on that account, all right? So if you don't want someone to get out there and open an account as you, open it yourself, all right? You can go to IRS and start an account, put a password on it so they can't go out there and do that. Does that make sense? All right, what's another way? You know, actually, before we even start talking about this one, any questions right now on the IRS side of things? We can talk about it later as well, but okay. All right, fake charities. Picture on the right is Katrina. All right, everybody's probably familiar with that. Picture on the left is the most recent one I could find, which are the earthquakes in Nepal. So these things happen. They're all over the news. They're on CNN. They're everywhere. So then the bad guys know that. So what do? They get their contact list and they start making phone calls. They start making emails asking you to contribute. Okay? What I would say for these, if you want to contribute to the cause in Nepal, or if you wanted to contribute for Katrina, you would go out and do that yourself and find a way to do that. Don't respond to emails or phone calls you're getting regarding those, because those are typically fraudulent. Okay? So if you want to help in Nepal, probably Red Cross or something like that's a good place to start. And this is just a letter from U.S. CERT saying, hey, look out, you know, there's a lot of emails, there's a lot of activity concerning that Nepal earthquake right now. The bad guys are out in full force trying to take advantage of that situation. All right, telemarketing. So let's talk about the phone a little bit now. Very popular for the senior crowd to get phone calls. Okay, typically the senior crowd still has that landline phone at their house. Okay, and the bad guys know that as well. So they're going to call you, and they're going to say, you know, I've come in a large sum of money, but I need you. I need someone to transfer it for me, and I'm willing to pay you to do that. Okay, so there's all kinds of ways that they'll target senior citizens using the phone. We're going to talk about a couple more of those in a little bit. But typically, what we would say is that if you've got that caller ID and you're not sure who that is, don't answer it. Make them leave you a message, okay, so you can help determine if that's legitimate or not. If you're not sure what the number is, make them leave a message, okay? Sweepstakes and lotteries. Raise your hand if you want to win $1 million. Yes, I do. Everybody does, okay? And that sounds great. And you start thinking what you're going to do. You're going to spend the money. What are you going to do with it, right? The problem is a lot of times it's not real. It's not real. It'll look really real, but a lot of times it won't be. So what they're going to do is say, hey, you by the phone or email, whatever, you've won a bunch of money. We just need you to take this check and send off just a certain amount of it, okay? And once you send off that $4,000, we're going to give you $500,000. Well, it's not going to happen, right? They're going to give you that check. It's going to be fake. You're going to send it off, and they're going to have a bunch of money sitting in their account, and that check's going to bounce. You're not going to see the other money afterwards. You're not going to see the money that was there originally. Okay, so it'll all be gone. You'll have zero. You'll be in the hole, and they'll have their money on the other end. That's how the sweepstakes and lottery scams work. Nigerian letters and emails. Anybody heard of these? This is one of the oldest ones. It's what we call a classic scam. It's where someone's telling you they're a government official and they need help to transfer funds to the United States, or they're royalty and they need to come to the United States. Their father or prince has been killed in the war and they need to move that money over here and get over here. If you'll just help them, they'll give you a piece of that. Raise your hand if you've heard of anyone that's gotten a large sum of money from a Nigerian prince. It doesn't happen. All right, maybe somewhere on this planet in the history of humans it's happened. I can't tell you of one. You see the word Nigerian, and it's fake. Okay, money mule, similar premise. So someone's going to say, either via Nigerian scam or lottery, what they're trying to do is move money again. So they may say, if you work from home for us, we're going to give you $1,200 a week. All you need to do is take this $3,800 check and move $2,600 of it for us. Wire it out. Okay? The problem is they're the bad guys, and what you're doing is laundering that money for them. So the ad in the paper looks really good. Hey, all I got to do is do these wire transfers once a week, and I'm going to make $1,200. Great, easy money, right? The problem is you're then a criminal. You're part of their criminal activity at that point. Okay, so just be aware of those money mule scams. A lot of times they coincide with the Nigerian scams or the lottery scams, or the work at home is the big one there. If they want you to work at home and do nothing but transfer money, it's a scam. All right? If they want to legally transfer the money, they can do it themselves. Okay, and they're not going to pay you $1,200 to do it, unless it's illegal. Family member emergency. We see a lot of these here at the bank. Okay? The grandparent gets the call, hey, this is Jimmy. I'm your grandchild. I'm stuck in Vancouver. I'm at the police station. I can't leave till you wire me $5,800. Grandma says, I think that's Jimmy. That sounds like him, you know. And Jimmy says, you can't tell anybody else what's going on. I'd like to keep this private. I just need you to go down to Western Union and wire me $5,800 to this account. All right, Grandma wants to take care of Jimmy, right? We see these all the time. The problem is the person on the other end isn't Jimmy. Pretty obvious on this scam. It's just somebody that knows the phone number to call to get them to wire the money. So what we would say here is if you get one of these and you're not sure, let us know. We can find out. All right, we can verify. There's ways for us to figure out who's on the other end of that line. Make sense? All right. Contractors. This is a good one. We see this time of year specifically. Person drives up in a truck to your driveway, sees you outside. They've got a truck. It's got extra shingles in it or siding or whatever. And they say, hey, you know, I see your roof, you know, could need some repair. I'm just done with this job down the street, but I've got some excess materials. I'm willing to do your roof at a discounted price because I'm just, you know, I can't sell these. It's just leftover. All right, so if you just give me a $500 check up front, I'll come back next Tuesday and finish this roof for you. But you're never going to see him again, right? So be really wary of anybody that pulls up and wants to talk to you directly about working on your house, okay? And a lot of times it's that extra material. I have it right there. You see it? It's in my truck. You see it in the truck, you're like, oh yeah, you know, that's shingle. I know what shingles are. You could actually put those on there, but 99 times out of 100, they're just scamming you. And what I'll say on this one, the big deal on this particular type of scam is that oftentimes they're going to want to come into your house, okay? So they're going to say, I can take a look at your furnace and make sure everything is working correctly. And you can say, you know what, you know, maybe that furnace hasn't been working well, or you can let them in to take a look at it. The problem is the second guy with them, while you're showing them the furnace, he's wandering around looking for things to steal. And we've seen this one locally as well. So really be careful about letting folks into your home that you don't know. And that's one of the things we'll cover later when we talk about what you can do as well. Travel. All right, everybody likes to travel. Craigslist is a big one here. You see something in the paper, it says, you know, wonderful vacation spot in the Caribbean, $3,800, you just need to wire the money here. We'll send you back all the details and you go on your vacation. Okay, it doesn't exist, same thing. You wire the money, you never hear from them again. Okay, so just be careful from a travel perspective, particularly with timeshares. It's just easy for them to make something up and make it look real. I can find a picture of some lovely spot and send it to you and ask you to wire money, okay? But just be very careful on the travel topic. Healthcare, Medicaid, same thing, folks offering services, discounts on medication, discounts on equipment. Typically, you just don't want someone to come to you for that stuff. You want to go to them, okay? Similar premise to some of the other scams. If they're coming to you with those things via the phone or via email, probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea. Typically, you're going to want to go out to your healthcare provider to get that information. Someone you know should be providing you with healthcare information and equipment, okay? All right, investment schemes. I could read this whole slide, I'm not going to. Here's what it comes down to. If someone offers you free money basically for nothing, it's not true, period. If they say you're going to get free money if you do this or that, it's just not happening, ever, okay? If you invest $1,200, you're going to get 200% back. They don't know that, right? So anytime someone offers you to invest your money for a guaranteed return they know is going to happen, they're selling you a bill of goods, okay? No one can tell you your investment's going to pan out before it does. Nobody, all right? All right, cashier's checks. So a big thing to look for, and this applies to a lot of these scams, is folks will use cashier's checks to pay for something that you've listed. So let's say you list, I want to sell this couch. They show up with a cashier's check, red flag, okay? And here's why. I can make a phony cashier's check. all right? People can make cash as well, that's more difficult. But to make a cashier's check is really easy, to make it look official, okay? So anytime someone wants to purchase something from you, or they're telling you you've won this money and they want to provide you the payment or the prize in the form of a cashier's check, it's probably not legit, okay? Probably not legit. It could be, but just let that cashier's check be a red flag, okay? Just let it be a red flag and think, I wonder if this thing's legit, and find out. And we can help you with that as well. So if you get a cashier's check and you want to know, let us know. We'll help you, okay? We'll help you find out. All right, reverse mortgages. So one of the things that has been pretty relevant in recent years with senior citizens are reverse mortgages. You just got to be careful that it's not a scam. So I'm not going to go into this one a ton, but what I'll tell you is that any legitimate loan product is going to be insured by the Federal Housing Authority. Okay, so if it's not, probably not legitimate there. And again, you can come in and talk to us if you think you're being scammed in that regard. All right, we talked about this one a little bit, the work-at-home schemes. The only thing I'll point out here different than what we talked about before is that they often lead to identity theft as well. So not only do they want you to send that check off, but you've filled out an application for employment, right? So you just give them your social and your address and your phone number and your date of birth and your driver's license and whatever else they wanted. So the work-at-home scams, not only are you doing these things for the bad guys, but also you just gave them all your data. Okay, and that's why I point this out on a separate slide. And then what they do from there is up to them with that data. They can sell it, like we talked about, whatever they do, okay? All right, so this is kind of, I gave this presentation to our branch manager group, and this is kind of a slide they came up with, just words to the wise for this group. And I mentioned this before, but be sure and use your caller ID. All right, it's a big weapon if you have one of those. It allows you to screen all those bad guys. Every single one, you can screen them. If that number comes in and it's 938 and 7 other numbers, unless you know that's Aunt Sally out in Seattle, don't answer it. Make them use the voicemail. And like that second bullet says, if they're legit, they're going to leave a message. If they really need to contact you for legit reasons, they will leave a message. All right, and this is the big one. Don't expect something for nothing. It just doesn't happen. All right, I wish it did. I wish people could just get millions of dollars for no reason, but it just doesn't happen, okay? So in those events where something sounds too good to be true, it probably is, but be willing to ask yourself, why am I getting all this money? Why am I getting a free car from this company? Why me? Be willing to ask yourself that, okay? Because probably the answer is you're not actually going to get that car or money, okay? And the last one there, and this is just, again, words to the wise and some simple advice. If it doesn't seem right, just cut them off. If you get that hint of, hey, I'm just not feeling quite right on this, go ahead and drop the phone call, all right? Or don't respond to the email. It's okay, all right? Again, back to that 30s, 40s, and 50s. If you're raised to be polite, in this case, if you think you're getting scammed, it's okay not to be. It's okay not to be polite to these people, okay? All right, so that's kind of just a quick rundown of 14, 15 types of scams there. Now we're going to talk about how you can prevent those, all right, and just some general advice on how you can avoid becoming a victim or what to do if you do become a victim. The big thing here is just understand your financial situation, okay? Check your bills. What's going out? What's coming in? Look at your statements. What is that payment to Virginia for $1,400? Find out, okay? Just know what's going on with your financial activity. Review your credit report, okay? So look for things you don't recognize. When we talked about identity theft, what do they do with your information? They apply for credit many times, okay? So they take your data and they go get a credit card as you, or they go pay their gas bill as you, all right, with a fake credit card, whatever it may be. But if you look on your credit report, you're going to potentially see some of that activity. So if they apply for a credit card with your information they've stolen, you're going to find that on your credit report. And you're going to say, I don't have a MasterCard from Hills Bank, but someone just applied for it as me, okay? And that's going to be a ding ding, and you'll know something's going on, all right? And then additionally in the credit report, if there's anything incorrect, if you notice it's just not right, chances are someone's done something with your credit. All right? So you're just looking for things in that report that aren't correct. And then you can order free credit reports online. There's a lot of different places you can get those now. I think they're required to give you those for free. Go ahead.
Along those lines, I had also heard at one time that.
Can you wait for the microphone?
I had heard at one time as well that if you try to get those reports too often, that might adversely affect your credit rating.
Yeah, I believe that's true. I'm not sure of the frequency exactly. But that's something you could talk to a banker about as well.
Oh, okay.
Just in terms of the actual frequency. But I think that's accurate. I just don't know the exact how often, how you'd be affected. We can find that out for you though, for sure. All right, there's going to be a couple slides of just prevention here, so just you can kind of work along with me here. So, when should you be suspicious? All right, and this is kind of a laundry list. If you want a prize or gift. All right, if you've been selected for a special offer. All right, the big one here is that third bullet. You must act immediately. Okay, so they're trying to put a sense of urgency into you to act. All right, so if they're rushing you, that can be a red flag as well. Why are these people, they're wanting to give me money, but they're also rushing me? Probably something's not right, okay? Probably something's not right there. If you have to pay for shipping for your prize, all right? So you're gonna get this prize, we just need you to send off the $80 for shipping first. If someone wants to give you a prize, they're gonna work that in. So if you gotta pay shipping, probably not a good deal. If someone offers to come to your home to collect that payment, all right? That's a red flag as well. If they say, you work at home and we need you to wire this money, we need you to wire it to someone you don't know, probably not a good idea, okay? Just generally speaking, sending your money off to someone else you don't know is not a good idea, right? And then the big one in this series right here is that if they want you to meet them somewhere, all right? If they want you to meet them at Western Union or at Kmart or wherever the Western Union is or at Hy-Vee or at other places where they're going to try to get you to wire money, okay? So that's a big red flag. And that's also potentially a dangerous situation, okay? So if someone calls you and says, hey, I got this great offer for you, I just need you down at the Western Union with your checkbook, call the police. Let us know, right? We'll help you out there, okay? Just to continue with prevention, if you're asked for your credit card number and expiration date over the phone, over email, nothing good comes out of that, all right? Nobody legitimate. As a bank, we're not going to ask you for that. We have it. Whoever initiated that information has it. And they're going to act like they're us. They're going to act like they're another financial institution and ask you for it. We're not going to ask you for that over the phone. Okay? We're just not. And if you're asked for personal information of any type, again, that's the value to them. We've talked about it throughout the whole presentation. They want that data so they can act like they're you and make money off of it. Okay? So just in general, be wary of giving out your personal information. All right, and then one last list here of things you never want to do. Never reveal your financial information to someone who contacts you via the phone. Those legitimate companies aren't going to call you and ask for the account information they already have. We know your account number, okay? Never give out that information over the phone. Never let anybody in your home that's a stranger, okay? We've seen multiple cases of folks rifling through people's houses looking for things while the other one's keeping their attention, okay? Never believe a stranger will use your money for a good purpose. There's people you trust and there's people you don't know, and make those separate, okay? Never assign power of attorney to people you don't know. I think that's pretty obvious, right? You don't want to give out that kind of power to someone you're not familiar with and is close to you. And don't sign contracts that have blank lines. All right, someone sends you an email and says, hey, you just need to sign this, and then that $1,200 a month is going to start rolling in. And it's got blank lines in it, and you never know who knows what they're going to put in there. They can put anything, all right? All right, so we talked about the scams. We talked about just some general prevention and what you can do. If you do fall for something, all right, if you do fall for something, the important thing is you are not alone, all right? Contact the police. Contact us. We will help you, all right? Like we talked about at the very first part of this. If you think about two groups of people, bad guys, good guys. The bad guys are working together to take your money. All right, they're working together. They're efficient. We have to work together as well. So work with the police, work with us. Don't be afraid to let us know because we're going to help you. All right? There is nothing more important to us than you, than our customer. We don't even exist without our customers. Okay? We're not even here. I don't have a job here. None of this happens. So let us help you. All right? We want to help you in this case. Let the police know, let us know, and then the good guys can work together also. Because when we work together, we end up getting that other group. Because the more people that report these things, the more information we have to go off of, the more information the police have to go off of, and we'll get them that way. But if no one tells us, we have no clue. We have no clue till you let us know what's happening. All right? So if you become a victim, let somebody know. That's the main theme. All right, just some general resources. USA.gov has some good information out there. The FBI has some good information, Better Business Bureau, et cetera. If you want a copy of this presentation, just let me know after, and I'll send it to you if you give me your email. All right, so let's wrap this up. We're all targets of the bad guys. All right, we work at a bank. I work in security, so I see this stuff every day, all day. The bank is targeted pretty much nonstop, all day and night. But what I'll tell you is the 65 and older crowd is the favorite target. We talked about it, and I'll say it one more time. You're the favorite target because you're nice. And the bad guys know that. They know you're trusting, and they know you're nice. And so that's why they're coming after you at a double rate of any other age group. Okay? There are many ways you can be targeted. So we talked about that. We looked at all those different scam methods. Okay? There's a lot of them. The bad guys are very creative. We talked about how they're working together and they're efficient. But not only that, they're also very creative. They're desperate. They're desperate to take your money. Okay? So they're going to be very creative in ways they target you. Third bullet point, you can prevent it. You can prevent it just by knowing how you're going to be targeted. So if you have a good understanding that I may be targeted over the phone, you're much more likely to stop it. All right? If you have a good understanding that I'm being targeted over email, you're much more likely to stop it. So just understand that you are the target and why, and that'll help you. That'll help you in terms of prevention. Okay? And the last thing, and we just talked about this, and I'm beating a dead horse here, but if you think you're a victim, we're here to help. We're here to help, and that's the long and short of it. The police will help you. They see this stuff more and more these days, and so do we. So if I would have called the police on something like this 10 years ago, they might have said we're busy. Not anymore, because the bad guys are sitting in a basement in Romania, more so than ever. Okay, and they want your data, because your data is more valuable than the money behind that counter. Okay. So if you think you're a victim, let us know. We can help you. And that's all I have. Any questions? Go ahead.
I've been getting some calls fairly regularly about the medical alerts, and I think it's a scam, but I'm not sure. They say with the new Affordable Care Act, you're eligible for this free medical alert system. And is that, have you heard of that?
I've not heard any of those, but there's a couple things you can do. One, talk to your actual medical expert and see what they think about it. But two, if you let us know, we can do some research on that phone number, and we'll tell you real fast. Yep. So if that's something that happens, and if we see that amongst a lot of customers, we'll get the police involved, and they can say, we know where that number is coming from. We know it's bad. We can typically find out real quick if it's a good number or not. So if you call in and say, hey, I'm getting these weird calls, it's from this number, we'll look into it.
And can you explain the mystery shopper idea? I hadn't really heard of that before.
That's really a Jeff thing, but no, I can't. But I can get that information for you though. But that's not one of my areas of expertise is the mystery shopper. I know it's a big deal, and I think the post office deals with that a lot as well. And I can certainly get your group more information on that, but I don't have any knowledge of that personally. Yeah, sorry. There's probably 7 or 8 of these I see a lot, and I'm really up on. But there's some. I mean, there's just so many. It's hard to be an expert on all of them.
I had a couple questions as well. So regarding the phone number, I think you had said like for the grandparents issue, if there's a caller ID number listed, then you don't have to call the bank right away. That's something that we could say, hey, this happened a couple days ago. Could you search this number and you can find information about it?
Absolutely. Yep. And if it's a big enough deal and it's a wide enough issue, the police have a database they use and different tools they use as well. to look up numbers. We'll just look online and figure out what we can. But I would say if you get it once and you don't hear back, it's not a big deal. But if they keep calling you over and over, and because we'll keep track of these issues. So if we get a customer calls on Monday, then one calls on Tuesday, and then 3 call on Wednesday, and then if we get a dozen on Thursday, we've got an issue that's affecting a large amount of our customers. But we can't do anything until we know. So if you get it more than once or twice and it becomes a little issue, let us know. And if here's what I'll say about letting us know. If you're not sure, let us know. Worst case, we say we saw this, we dealt with it, you don't have to worry about it. Or, we've got an issue we're just learning about. So if you're not sure, contact us and we'll figure it out.
And along those lines, so like I've heard issues where caller IDs might display a name or associated with that number, but it's not truly, that's a phishing element as well.
That's called spoofing. So, and that's a great point. That's an excellent point to bring up. The bad guys can make it look like whatever number they want. So they've got some software. If they want to look like they're coming from my number, they'll look like they're coming from my number.
I get it where it comes from my number.
Yep.
My
Yep.
name and my number. Yeah, we get that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called spoofing, and it's really easy to do, unfortunately. So the only thing I can tell you there is just be wary. If you get a number from someone you think you know, just make sure it's them. Because they can spoof your number. It's very hard for them to spoof their voice. So if you think it's your banker, have a good understanding that's what your banker actually sounds like. That makes sense? So they can spoof that as well, but that's really difficult. But it's very, very easy for them to spoof the number. So at that point, we just recommend voice authentication.
One of your slides, a couple before the reverse mortgages, talked about a common fraud schemes web page. Is that the one that's on the irs.gov?
Common schemes what?
It said common fraud schemes web page. It said,
I don't know. Let's just bring it back up real quick.
it was like about 2 or 3 before the one on reverse mortgages. Right there. Yep. No, the yeah. Please visit the common
Like
fraud.
you're looking at here. Okay, yeah, I can get you that. Yep, I can get you that.
And just one other one. When you're talking about the IRS tax scams, you talked about, something you could do to prevent that was to go out and open your own account with your password. So I know some people who were hit by the University of Iowa one that happened this spring. But I thought they had said that they did have accounts already on their site.
And that could happen, but they might have had passwords that are easily guessed. So what the bad guys do is just throw a random password generator on there until they guess the password. So if they're going to sign up for an account, just make sure they use a complicated password. So like a passphrase, so like jan@noon.org, something that a password generator can't come up with quickly. So if you use a password of password, or password of 1234, or password of Mike, or whatever, they're going to get in anyway. So they can sign up for that account, but just make sure they use a more complex password or passphrase. I recommend just using, what I use is just like a email address type format. So j@bank.net. It just throws enough stuff in there that it makes it tough for them to generate it. Yep, you're welcome. Good questions.